Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Thursday, February 17th meeting of the Boone County Board. Call the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. I ask that you stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance with us and then remain standing for an invocation from Jonathan Van Laar. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, we come before you this evening with yet another county board agenda before us. We pray that you'll give us wisdom that comes from you. We thank you, Father, for this opportunity to serve the residents of this county. We pray for guidance. In Christ's name, I pray these things. Amen.
Amen.
Roll call, please.
Carl Johnson.
Here.
Sherry Giesky.
Here.
Sherry Bartow. Brian Curry.
Here.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Here.
Ray Larson.
Here.
Rodney Riley.
Here.
Bill Robertson.
Here.
Steve Schabacher.
Here.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Here.
Tom Wahlberg.
Here.
David Wiltie.
Here.
Next, I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Schabacher.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Curry. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Excuse me. Next, I'd ask for a motion to approve the January 20th County Board meeting minutes, January 6th Special County Board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
By Mr. Riley, seconded by Mr. Robertson. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment. First, Mr. Street, any emails or anything?
Not tonight.
For public comment? Okay, thank you. I do have three up here. If there's anyone else in the audience, other than the three that have signed a slip for public comment, we ask that you do please fill out a form and bring it up here, just so we have everything on record. So we'll start with Faye Elwinger for public comment. If you want to come up, I ask everyone who's doing public comment to please state your full name and your address for the record, please.
My name's Faye Elwinger. I live at 8653 Russellville Road, Garden Prairie. I live just across the road from where the proposed solar farm is going to be. I'm on a farm that's been in my Elwinger family since 1903. My son's going to be the fourth generation to take over the farm. That's pretty good standing, I think, in Boone County. There's not many that can say that. But this location of the solar farm is in a dangerous situation on a hill on Ringo Road, is where they propose to have their driveway. That road is like I-90 in the morning and at night with traffic. I think there's better suited places for this solar farm. That's farm productive soil, because my farm lays across the road and I know what I can produce. I think it's a waste of good farmland. And I think that this ought to be voted down because everybody think about what they want to look out their front window and see a solar farm there. That's what I have to do. I built a new house there 8 years ago on this property, and my front window faces that direction. And I would have to look out that window every day to see a solar farm. And I don't think any one of you would like to do that. Thank you. Any questions for me? I'll answer them.
I'm sorry, Mr. Elwinger. Public comment is just for you to address the board, and it's not a back and forth during the board meeting. So, but thank you for your time. Thank you. Next up, I have Daryl Davis.
Hi, I'm Daryl Davis, 8726 Denny Road, Garden Prairie, Illinois. I'm here tonight representing the Bonus Township and the trustees and the Planning Commission. I just wanted to fill you in on a Between the Dates event. Before the ZBA meeting, the Planning Commission had met and voted in disfavor of the petition for the solar farm. That recommendation was forwarded to the Bonus Township trustees, and they voted also negative with respect to the solar farm. I wanted to bring you up to date on that.
Thank you, sir. Next, I have Jeremy Adams.
I'm Jeremy Adams, 7888 Moringa Road, Garden Prairie. And again, in regards to the solar farm, this project would be directly west of my property, button right up to my west side of my property. I was here a couple years ago, just kind of doing the same thing, but you know, I moved into the house 5 years ago, been working a lot, trying to get it cleaned up, doing a lot of work around it. I did bring a picture, I don't know if I can pass it around or not. It looks out I'm standing on my front sidewalk looking straight up at it. As you'll see, if you can I pass this around or?
Can you pass it around?
I mean, it's up to you guys.
Yeah, that's fine. You can pass it around.
Thank you.
When you look at the picture, you'll see I'm looking uphill at this thing. So I understand they're talking about landscaping it. I've got 27 years in landscaping. I understand what the contractor would be probably putting in is some 4 or 5 foot pine trees. As you're going uphill, that's not gonna do anything to block my view of this thing. I'm gonna have to look at it for the next 30 years. I bought this piece of property knowing that the pipeline building is there, but also knowing I have a lot of acreage of farm around me, being a little bit further outside of town, knowing that hopefully it would stay farm acres around me and enjoying it for my kids. I do have cattle out roaming around at the pasture right up against the property there. So, I mean, again, it's just, I really hope you guys consider, you know, my other neighbor couldn't make it tonight, but we're all trying to do, I understand that, you know, this is probably a little bit of benefit, but also if you do a lot of research in solar farms, you know, you're supplying electricity, but it's going to cost you more electricity if you want to use their electricity, more than what, you know, in the long term too. So, you know, I just really hope you guys consider that. I really would hopefully not want to see this for the next 30 years of my life sitting here. I've got 3 kids, so I've got nowhere to go. I'm hoping to stay in the area for at least the next 10 years while my kids are in school minimally. So I just hope you guys take that in consideration. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else in the boardroom that would like to offer any public comment? Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is appointments. We have one appointment. I'd ask for a motion to approve. I believe it's Mr. Waite to the Housing Authority. Motion to approve. By Mr. Wahlberg, seconded by Mr. Schabacker. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, Council on Aging.
The meeting of the full board is scheduled for February 21st, 22, including presentation of a strategic plan. They receive funding to expand social call program for the Community Foundation of Northern Illinois. And they have a golf play day fundraiser, buffet, dinner, and auction. That's Monday, May 23rd, 22 at 1:30 tide, Timber Point Golf Club. Art is doing tax preparation there until 4/8 of 22, from 8:30 in the morning until 11:45 in the morning. Appointments are still available. So if you need the Keenage phone number, that's 815-544-9893. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Growth Dimensions. Pam, are you on the line?
I am.
Wonderful, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for taking this time this evening. I just wanted to share with you a few updates. We have, Growth Dimensions has been working on 64 open projects, 9 that has started in 2022. 35 of those have been industrial. We've had 43 contacts with businesses this year, and 21 are new businesses that we have first time initiated, and 15 are returning, and others are investment calls. Some of those projects include the 3 main projects we've been working on is Project Kelly, Project OM, and Project Yukon. 2 of those are large in distribution and logistics opportunities. They are at different scales. Project Kelly, we're working with the city and looking at annexation agreements. And with Project Yukon, they're doing some due diligence time. Project OM is actually in the process of purchasing property, and we'll quickly get some projects after that. I'll want to share with you kind of a success story of one of those, one project that we find is a win. We've been working with a company called DWTB LLC, and many people know it as Jimmy John's. The co-owners of Jimmy John's have contacted us back in January of 2018. They were referred by their attorney to work with Growth Dimensions and identify 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. They were looking to have a second location on the south side of Belvedere. So we were working with them in 2018 and 2019, but their requirements were very specific due to the requirements of the company, Jimmy John's, the franchise. But in 2021, they purchased Midland States Bank on North State Street, and they're going to be moving from the State Street Plaza to this location. They're currently under renovation. We've been working with them on enterprise zone activity. 80% of Jimmy John's business is typically, or more, is typically drive-through. So this will increase their profit margin and, of course, bring resources into the community. They expected to complete at the end of March and occupy in early April. We've also been trying to, they've also identified partnership with one of our projects that we're working on, Project OM, on the south side of Belvedere, which will allow them that second location. And then we're also working with them on potential other ventures that they want to have in the downtown Belvedere area. So I just wanted to share with you that example, as you know, sometimes it's timing, perseverance, and relationships that really get some of these projects going. We've also had a lot of activity with some of the infrastructure efforts that we've been making. We're, especially with some of these projects, we're trying to expand the water and sewer capacity to Irene Road. And then we're also, we're notified recently that the application that we supported with Ogle County has been awarded for broadband solutions. So this will help us develop a planning type solutions for rural communities, and we're one of probably about 5 communities or 5 counties that have supported this. And this regional plan will also help us get more resources to address some of the solutions, to address our broadband issues. So we're going to continue to work with region on some of those solutions. And we're excited to have both the city of Belvedere and Boone County involved in that. We are also working with some fast track training. We have 14 people participating in a realtors fast track training, which is an entrepreneurial training program that we have facilitated. And this is in order to help our businesses sustain themselves and grow. And we also have some 12 individuals involved in the fast pass training program. We're working also with the school districts on trying to build internships in manufacturing and automotive areas. We've identified 32 businesses. 2 have actually signed off on commitments. So we're going to continue to market that and try to build the pipeline of our workforce because we know that that's been the number one challenge that many of our businesses have had. And the last thing I wanted to share with you is that we have been working with, as you know, we help support and we initiated the REV bill, the Reimagine Electric Vehicles bill that the state of Illinois signed last year in November. As a follow-up to that, the Illinois Manufacturing Association is asking support for the Manufacturing Illinois Chips for Real Opportunities, called the Micro Act. And this is Senate Bill 3917 and House Bill 4634. And this is to provide tax incentives for high-tech manufacturers of microchips. And, you know, this has been a challenge for a lot of our automotive makers to actually start projects or initiate projects or even continue production. So this is the benefits would be very similar to the REV bill. Just wanted to kind of bring those things to light and let you know what we're doing.
Questions for Growth Dimensions? Thank you very much, Pam. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Next up, CASA.
We have a icon show, 3 in a row, Legends of Country show coming up February 27th. It starts at 1:30 p.m. Doors open at 1 p.m. Tickets are $15, 16 and younger are $10. You can purchase that by calling the CASA office at 547-6599 or purchase at the door. I believe they've been doing this for some time and it's a pretty good turnout and it's a great thing to get the community together. And then as always, we're always looking for advocates. It feels like that pretty overwhelmed most of the time, unfortunately. So if you or you know anybody that would be a court-appointed special advocate or like that training, reach out to that office and let them know that you're available. We'd appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Next up, R1. Just one thing for R1. Well, 2 things. One, they put together I'm going to call it a playbook for projects that Boone County, Belvedere, Rockford, Winnebago County, et cetera, have put in the pipeline and think are important and kind of ranked those projects. I think they ranked them in an order. Did they rank them, Justin?
It's just a playbook.
Just a playbook list. So just a list so that when grants come available and things like that, they can open that up and say, these are what's, important to our communities that are part of R1. So, we'll get that out to you just so you can see it and peruse it. It's some, interesting insomnia reading sometimes, but, it does help. Just let you know what everybody's thinking about out there. Next thing is the next round of STBG grants are coming up for R1. So if you have a project that you think, hey, this is really important to, I think, our development, to Boone County, to whatever, please pass it on to me, pass it on to Justin, and we can take a look at it and see if it's a viable project that we can put in the pipeline to maybe get some funding to help do it. Justin, anything else you can think of for R1? Okay, perfect. Next up, there was some information from Regional Office of Education on board docs for you, just some informational items. Just go ahead and take a peek at those and go from there. Next up, I would accept a motion for the general consent agenda to approve it.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Schubacher,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Gieske. Just in there were some interfund transfers from public safety to general fund and from general fund to employee health. And some raffle permits. And then I certainly want to point out, we have some donations to the Animal Services Department, amount of $500 in honor of Jerry D. Kitchen. And then some material donations from various people. So we thank all those people that in the community that are helping to support animal services. So any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business. I would accept a motion to approve the DCO grant or DECO grant in the amount of $750,000. Motion by Ms. Geeske, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Schubacher. Discussion. Ms. Geeske.
Just curious, Justin, was this you that applied for all this?
That was more of a political thing than
Okay.
anything else. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Sherry Geeske,
Yes.
Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Yes. Aye.
Ronnie Riley,
Yes.
Bill Robertson,
Yes.
Steve Schubacher,
Yes.
Jonathan Van Mar,
Yes.
Tom Wahlberg,
Yes.
David Wiltsey,
Aye.
Carl Johnson.
Yes. Motion carries. Next, I'd accept a motion to approve the special use extension for planning case 33-2018 Cypress Creek Kish Solar LLC Solar Panel Project.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wiltsey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Robertson. Izzy, staff report.
Thank you. Dan, can you pull up my PowerPoint, please? It should be right. I minimized it, yep. Awesome. Okay, so the next three agenda items relate to this, so I wanted to give a quick rundown. So the following items relate to approved special use permits that occurred in 2018. Extension requests were granted in 2020, which is 1 year. And that is something that is afforded to them per our zoning ordinance. So what happened in November of 2021 is they requested another 1 year extension request before their extension request expired. So right on time. The county board reviewed these and denied the extension request on December 16th, 2021. Both Cypress Creek and Forefront petitioned to the board for reconsideration, and they said some information that some of the board members reviewed. And so a board member motioned for the reconsideration of these special use extension requests. So the board voted in favor of reconsidering these extension requests on January 20th of this year. And so today you will be reconsidering the actual extension request. So the first one, 33-2018-ish Kish 2 Solar, located in A1 Agricultural Preservation District. This is for a Cypress Creek project. So again, the special use permit extension request is what you are reviewing right now. This project was approved in 2018 with conditions. The special use extension was granted for 1 year in 2020, and they are seeking another extension request before their expiration, which is when they came to us. This project is a 2 megawatt project located in Flora Township. This project is west of Wheeler Road, and the property size is approximately 63 acres, but the project size is actually 30 acres. So I did have a aerial of where the project is going to be located, which is around right here. So are there any questions? I did include the letters that Cypress Creek submitted, as well as the original ordinance, which is the one that will regulate this project.
Questions for Izzy? Mr. Riley?
Is this prime farm ground? Are they farming this right now?
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Walner, did you have something?
Yeah, this solar project is adjacent to an existing solar project. Is that correct?
Yes, Kish 1 is located south of this.
Thank you.
Mr. Curry?
When this, I refresh my memory, did it have neighbors show up that were against that? There's a farm, obviously, right there. Have we heard from the farmer?
So special use extension requests do not require a new public hearing. That happened in 2018. And so
That's what I'm asking. When 2018, did that happen?
yes, they had a public hearing, but I don't know if there was any sort of opposition, but the county board ultimately approved the project.
And they heard from the farmer that lives right there that's going to be affected by that, or is that his land that he's using the contract for?
All adjacent property owners were notified. So if there were any concerns, they would have popped up in 2018.
Okay.
Yes.
We don't have that record.
Further questions for Izzy from the board? Ms. Kieske?
I'm going to ask the dumbest question of the night. So if this goes, if this is approved, then it goes back through the whole process. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
The special use permit just continues
Okay.
as it had in 2018. So it's just continuing to have an active special use permit.
It's an extension.
It's just an extension, and whether or not they get funding, whatever the case might be.
Sure.
Okay, that was really what I wanted to ask.
The applicant is on the line, and I know, but he can further explain the funding.
Okay, further questions for staff? Mr. Riley?
Follow up to the question that Tom mentioned. You said it's already next to, it's not an existing solar farm, is it? It's one that's in planning?
No, it's an existing.
It is okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Van Laar?
To clarify on Riley's question, the land next to it is an existing solar farm, correct?
Right down.
Yeah, they would like to, so is this then, the same company who developed the one next to them, is this like a second phase then, a continuation of that one?
Typically, yes. It's not exactly co-located, but yes, it's Kish 1 and Kish 2.
Okay.
Further questions from the board for staff? Izzy, you mentioned the applicant is on the line.
Yes.
Who do we have on the line?
We have Paul Irby.
Mr. Irby, would you like to make any comments?
Sure. Yes. Hello, members of the board. Hope everyone can hear me okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again here tonight. Like as you said, I'm Paul Irby. I'm the lead developer for Cypress Creek on the Ogdenville and Kish 2 solar projects. Just to avoid any confusion, these are entirely separate from the project on Marengo Road, which was discussed during the public comment period. I won't, represent the points that I touched on at the last meeting, but I wanted to let the board know that I'm on the line here, available to answer questions, and there have been a number already. On Kish 2, there was a question about the neighbor across the street. We are proposing a line of vegetative screening on the corner of the project across the street from where that neighbor lives to help shield the project from view. And just finally to reiterate, why we're here going through these extensions so urgently, and as it relates to funding, which I believe was another question from the board. Both of these projects were recently selected off of the IPA waitlist to receive offtake contracts in the reopening of the Illinois Shines Community Solar Program. With that happening, within the past couple of months, we're working tirelessly to try to bring these projects to construction within the next year. Now that the offtake has been secured after waiting nearly 2 years for IPA rulemaking to be completed. It goes without saying, maintaining the active special use permits is vital to be able to achieve that goal and bring these projects online. Thank you. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to address them.
Any questions for the applicant, Mr. Curry?
When you approached the neighbor who lives directly across the street about the vegetative screening, what was his response?
So that predated my time on the project, but we, developed the vegetative screening plan, in conjunction with comments from the ZBA and from the neighbor.
Any other questions for the applicant? Mr. Riley?
How tall is the vegetative barrier you're talking about, sir?
I would have to look at our plans, but it's typically 6 to 8 feet at mature height. Typically, we plant them at 3 to 4 feet, but I would have to look at the plans to give you the precise number there.
And if I could just clarify, their landscaping plan will be reviewed during their permitting process for conformance to the conditions.
Further questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir. Izzy, anything else that you want to present to us? Any other questions or comments from the board? Mr. Wiltsey?
Again, I want to say, as we did at our last meeting when we considered this, it was approved in 2018. We all know what's happened with all the whole permitting processes. The gentleman has just described how they were taken off the wait list and recognized for both of these projects now. It's not their fault. It was approved by the board previously, and I think we need to, and I will be voting yes to approve it.
Further comments from the board? Mr. Curry?
I'm sorry, just because it was voted in favor of in 2018, we have a new board. I didn't hear a neighbor speak in 2018. I really wish they would have had notes to tell me what those neighbors said. But if that's my farm and I'm growing up, raising a family, there's an 8-foot barrier. I don't care what 2018 said. It's a new case now, and we need to approach it as if. If you didn't hear the arguments or the discussion prior, I don't understand why we don't have notes from 2018 if they're coming back for Easter. So I guess I'm confused if nobody has any notes from that and everybody was in agreement, then that's fine.
Well, ultimately, everybody on the county board was in agreement to.
Not on the county board. I'm talking about the people that spoke for it, the neighbors.
I understand that. Ultimately, the county board did approve it.
Doesn't matter to me.
Did you know what the vote was on the county board at that time? I don't know if that's easy to.
Wasn't that attached?
And Mr. Curry, I can tell you that we had multiple solar projects that were presented to the county board throughout that whole period of time. I do not particularly remember this one. Some projects had more objections than others. Some of the projects, when it related to, installing a vegetative buffer and things like that, the board encouraged working with the neighbors. And sometimes that solved the issue, biggest issue. Maybe they weren't necessarily still ecstatic that it was going in, but they weren't necessarily as objectionable. But I can't tell you what this particular project, what was said, during that time. Go ahead.
So I did pull up the previous agenda item on board docs. We do those parentheses with what the vote was. So for this one, Kish 2, ZBA approved 4-0.
The ZBA approved 4-0?
Yes, that's what it shows on here.
Oh, during the original.
2018.
In 2018, yeah, okay. Okay, so ZBA approved it, and that's where they would have had, hearings and objections from neighbors and things like that. Great, go ahead, and then Mr. Riley, I'll get you.
This probably a crazy question to ask. If a solar farm goes in across the street of a farm, what does that do to the home's value? Is there an average? Is there any studies that have been taken on if it depreciates the value of a home or the farm?
There have been no significant data that suggests that the value would decrease. Just from previous experts and information and data that we've seen that has been presented.
Mr. Riley?
I think if I'm not looking at it right next to on our board docs, 19.6, if you scroll to the bottom, it was on December 18th of 2019, 10-2, and 4-2 again. If I'm looking at the right thing, you're saying.
Oh, you're looking at it in 2018?
This actually says it was dated, December 19th of 2018.
Okay, so it was a pretty strong vote by the board. Okay. Further questions or comments from the board? Mr. De La Trinidad.
I just wanted to remind the board that if we vote no for these projects, this will lead to tax hikes down the road. Taxpayers will foot the bill because this brings in much needed tax revenue, and I will be voting yes.
Mr. Shabakar, did you have something?
Yeah. On this one, and at this time, this is the only one we're talking about, I would support this, especially with being right next door to an existing one. This isn't something new. it's been there and being it's Kish 2, I don't see any problem with voting yes for this next to an existing solar farm. So my vote on this will be yes. Thank you.
Okay, anything further from the board? Just one comment from me. I appreciate the circumstances as to why they're here asking for these extensions on all three of these projects. I know it's two different developers, but, and I understand those circumstances. I do want to say that if I'm on the board, the next time this comes up, if it comes up again, I would not be as favorable towards it, because at some point, I think the board does have to say, look, we can only give so many extensions, so many extensions, so many extensions. Considering the calamities that happened in the past year, I think it's fair to give another year extension on this, so I'll be voting in favor of it also. Saying that, roll call, please. This, just to clarify, a yes vote would grant the 1 year extension. Izzy, when would that 1 year extension be up?
February 2023.
February 2023. Okay. Roll call, please.
Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
No.
Ronnie Riley,
No.
Bill Robertson,
Yes.
Steve Shabaki.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar,
No.
Tom Wahlberg,
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Geeske.
No.
Motion carries. Izzy?
Okay. And can you switch back to my PowerPoint? Thank you. Okay, so the next one, we are looking at another Cypress Creek project, Ogdenville Solar. Again, this is a special use permit extension request. This project was approved in 2018 with conditions, and a special use permit extension was granted for 1 year in 2020. And so they are requesting another one before the expiration date. This is a 2 megawatt project in Boone Township, west of Garden Prairie Road. Property size is approximately 107 acres, and the project size is 37 acres. This is an light industrial zone district property.
Questions for staff? Izzy, what'd you say the property was zoned as?
Light industrial.
So it's zoned as light industrial, not as ag? Okay.
That's right. This is not an A1 ag property.
Okay. All right. Mr. Van Laar?
What's its current use right now?
It's vacant.
Cropland.
Undeveloped.
Is it cropland, right? Is it being farmed right now?
I believe so.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know.
Yes, it is being farmed right now.
Thank you.
Okay, so it is being farmed. Mr. Riley?
I'll just say this much, looking at the vote from last time, maybe it was closer to a board member's house because the vote was 9-3 on that one. Just my thought. I'll be voting no.
Okay. Further questions for staff?
Just for clarification, based on Mr. Curry's previous question, ZBA voted in favor on this one as well.
Okay.
What?
Mr. Curry?
Bonus Township vote?
I don't have that information.
So
Mr. Wahlberg?
this is in Bonus Township. We did hear from the supervisor of Bonus Township tonight. Assuming he feels the same way about both projects maybe in Bonus Township or their will to have it.
Mr. Schwacker?
Yeah, well, one of the things that impresses me that this property is zone industrial. You could put Chrysler plant there. I mean, you can't stop a industrial project. Now, I know we're not talking that with the solar, but if you want to go out there and put a company that builds partition walls or anything, that property is called light industrial. Am I correct there?
Yes.
So a company, like I said, could come in and put a factory there. So I'm going to be voting in favor of it. mainly because of that reason. It doesn't have to stay agricultural, but tomorrow you can go there, again, a factory. So I don't know what we're protecting. But anyway, that's my thoughts.
Izzy, do you have on your, can you pull up what would be allowed under a light industrial without any permitting through this body?
Yeah, I was just looking at that.
Oh, there you go.
You can have a hotel by right, no permits necessary except building permits. So no permits, special use. Storage facility can go there. You can have a commercial printing establishment, contractor's office, distribution facility. You can have a lumber yard, planning mill, light manufacturing, an assembly. These are all permitted uses. Painting, sign painting, or other similar establishment, pottery establishment, truck stop, a warehousing, weighing station. You can have a public parking garage.
And that's by right.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's just asking, that's just come in, fill out a building permit and off you go. It doesn't even come to this board or any other, okay? Okay. Further questions for staff? Would the applicant like to speak on this one at all?
We have Jason Grissom.
Okay.
Mr. Grissom.
Oh, no, it's still me.
That's, isn't it Mr. Irby still?
I'm sorry, Paul. I apologize.
It's okay, yeah. No, I don't really have any, additional comments here. I think the discussion here has been really good, and I think kind of, echoes what our landowner is intending to do with the site. He's very motivated to do solar, but, ultimately views this property as an investment opportunity. So if it's not solar, it could be something else, certainly. I don't think there's a long-term commitment to ag here. But yeah, just wanted to note that for the board.
Mr. Schwacher?
I would rather see the solar panels over there, which whether you range 15 feet or less in height. And so again, like some of the other items that you can just do it. You can just come there, come get your building plans, get them approved, build. So myself, if I live there, I'd rather see those solar panels there than some large building. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Any other comments from board members? Ms. Kieske?
I just have a quick question. So if these are adjacent, these are adjacent pieces, correct?
Not this one.
That's one. The parcels or the project?
Parcels.
These two projects are in different locations. The one we just previously voted on.
Okay, got it.
This one, yeah.
By Garden Prairie Road.
There's so many of them, it's like,
Yeah,
okay.
yep.
So this one is located just on the north edge of town of Garden Prairie. Correct. The town of Garden Prairie.
Northwest of the train.
Off of Garden Prairie Road.
Got it, okay.
Okay, any further questions, comments, queries? I agree with Mr. Schabacher. It's light industrial. This could be anything tomorrow that fits under light industrial. So if solar panels are what they want, then I don't think it's a bad thing. Roll call, please.
Freddie De La Trinidad,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
No.
Ronnie Riley,
No.
Bill Robertson,
Yes.
Steve Schabacher,
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar,
No.
Tom Walberg,
No.
Dave Wiltsey,
Aye.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Kieske,
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Motion carries. Izzy.
Okay. This one is Jason Grissom. I apologize about that. Case 13, 2018, FFP Illinois Community Solar. This is, again, another special use extension request. This project was approved in 2018 with conditions. Special use permit extension was granted for 1 year in 2020, and they are requesting another 1 year extension before their expiration. This is a 2 megawatt project in Boone Township, north of US Route 20. The property size is approximately 48 acres, and the project size is approximately 50. This is located in A1 agricultural preservation zoned property. Any questions?
Sorry, Izzy, hold on a second. I forgot what I was doing. I'd accept a motion to approve this extension. Let me read it in here. Motion to approve extension. Planning case 13-2018 FFP Illinois Community Solar LLC Solar Panel Project. Motion by Mr. Wiltsey, was it?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Robertson. Sorry about that. So, questions for Izzy, Mr. Van Loren.
Izzy, can we read what the acceptable uses in A1 are without a permit?
Okay. Okay, so without a permit, ag, artificial lakes, orchard and vineyards, row crop production, stables, forest management and harvesting, public water wells or stations, filtration plants, storage tanks, telephone exchange or public utility substation, accessory relative living quarter, home-based business, energy facility less than 1 megawatt,
Two.
ultra-light landing area, towers less than 200 feet above ground level.
Towers, 200 feet up, towers.
Those are permitted by right.
Thank you.
Top by right.
Further questions for staff?
That's it, that's G.
Ms. Kieske?
Just to clarify, so the reason this is a special use is because it's 2 megawatts, correct? Got it.
Greater than 1.
But I don't know.
Got it.
Could be so.
Okay. All right, Izzy, looking at this map, are there any homes close to where this is at? I know some of these projects were, kind of I don't want to say in the middle of nowhere, but they weren't necessarily right close to some
So
homes.
the property owner has an establishment right here. And then there's
That's the property owner's home? Okay.
Susie Silverhorn, and I believe she's here.
Is this so?
Yeah, she's here.
Oh, okay, okay.
Izzy,
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, the parcel east of this project is the Ogdenville
Yes.
solar project?
Thank you for pointing that out, yes.
Okay. All right. Any further questions for staff? The developer or, I hear the landowner is here.
Landowner and Mr. Jason Grissom is on the line as this.
Okay, does the landowner want to address the board at all?
I'll fill out the sheet.
No, you don't have to, that's for public comment. But I do need you to, when you come up to come to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Mary Silberhorn Burbach. I live at 7525 Lawrenceville Road. I am part of the corporation that owns this land, which is Three Sisters. We put the land into a corporation after my father passed. Where this is going to be located is going to be north of the railroad tracks. Somebody was saying, it is adjacent to the old PAG in Garden Prairie. The only basically house around is where my mom lives. You cannot see it from the road. As we are talking about zone 1 and prime agricultural land, this is not prime agricultural land. This is sandy loam. In order for us to raise any kind of row crop, I am literally, last year with the drought, I was pumping 7 days a week. I have a huge report that I sent into the soil and water because of the amount of water I used to do the row crops. So putting the solar farm there in many ways is ideal because of the sandy loam. I do not have to worry about the irrigation that it takes to manage the row crops and the crops that are there. I am no longer farming 55 acres of vegetables like we did with my father. I am close to farming maybe 10, which is part of the reason why we decided to look into the consideration of a solar farm and go into a contract with 4 farm properties.
Okay, questions for the landowner, Mr. Schwacher?
Yeah, say, you mentioned that this is on the north side of the railroad tracks, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Further questions from the board for the landowner or the, or staff? All right, so thank you. Is, you said Jason is on the line from the developer? Is there anything that you would like to say?
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
We can hear you fine.
Okay, good. Now, I appreciate you you letting me join again. I was on last month. I've been a part of this project since 2018. We're kind of in the same situation as Cypress. We were not chosen originally in the lottery, and luckily we held on to the land and the relationship with the landowner. And things opened up in September of this year, and we're really excited about these projects. I know the landowner's really excited. Mary, I appreciate you speaking tonight. And no, we just appreciate your consideration on our extension, and would be happy to address any site-specific questions that you have.
Questions for the developer? Thank you very much, sir. Comments from the board? Trinidad?
Yeah, this is what gets me about this debate, because if the farmers themselves want solar panels, then I don't see what the arguments are. I believe in something called property rights, so I'll leave it at that.
Further comments from the board?
With all due respect, most of these properties are not owned by farmers. Most of these properties are owned by absentee landowners, and they want cash. So they want whatever can make them the most money. And so, no, we do eat 3 times a day, and we do like our ag in this county. So yes, that's the problem.
Mr. Wiltsey.
But each case has to be determined on individual facts. In this particular case, the property owner has indicated it's Sandy Loam. She's down to 10 acres instead of 55. She has to pump a lot of water. It's not prime land, and this is what the property owner wants. There is a significant difference when this board has approved in 2018 a project. Most of us weren't there. But when it's been approved and there's been 2 timely extension, and we know there's lotteries going on and there's lists going on, it's not the applicant's fault. It's not the project fault. And for all of these factors, including the fact it's not prime ag land, I think we should vote yes on this. We have to be really careful to turn down an extension to make sure it's not reasons that we might have voted no in 2018. It's got to be stuff that is more relevant to the current situation. In this case, the landowners clearly indicated that it's not prime land and that they want to go to do this solar.
Mr. Riley.
Unfortunately, I don't have the figures, so I probably shouldn't say this, but since 2018 to now, it'd be interesting to see how much productive farmland we've lost to this type of project. So maybe somebody else has a figure that might be a little more in tune with what I'm saying, but that was 2018. It was a different board. About 4 or 5 years after that, things have changed. A lot of farmland has been lost to this, and I'm just not for this in Boone County. Thank you.
Izzy, are we considering a comprehensive plan for solar farms in Boone County for the future? Is that something we could do, or we're doing?
Yeah, we can definitely consider it. I know the Boone County Agricultural Preservation and Easement for Farmland Protection Easement Commission, is actually starting the conversation to talk about solar projects in the county and possible conditions that we can actually add into our ordinance. So I think the conversation is starting.
As a farmer myself, these are tough decisions, but I'd have to agree with a lot of the things that were said here. If we're going to have these projects, let's not put them on prime farm ground. This is a good example. This one probably makes sense. That's my comment.
Mr. Curry?
I would agree. To me, hearing neighbors or the owner speak is important to me. We don't serve ourselves, we serve the people in our community, and we need to listen to them. It sounds like Ms. Silverhorn is struggling to get water on that property. It's not viable. What was important to me is she said it's not visible. It's not an eyesore for a retired farmer or someone that's leasing their land that's choosing to stay on their homestead. That's important to me. this is a case, and I believe what Dave Wiltsey said is we have to look at every one of these cases as a single case, not from what 2018 is. You didn't get elected in 2018, you got elected last year, and now we're serving now. So look at the case about the past and make your own decisions on it. But I would agree, this is one of those cases that would be in favor of it.
Anything further? Roll call, please.
Corey Larson,
Aye.
Ronnie Riley,
No.
Bill Robertson,
Yes.
Steve Shabaki.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar,
No.
Tom Walberg,
Yes.
David Wiltsey,
Aye.
Carl Johnson.
Yes.
Sherry Geeske,
No.
Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Freddie Taylor Trinidad.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen
Thank you.
and ladies. Next up, we have just a discussion on the electric vehicle charging station. I can just tell you a little bit. I think that's got to do with the RFP that R1 has done. I think they've got totals in, or not totals, but costs in on that. Considerably less than we were originally talking. I want to say there's somewhere in the $5,000 to $8,000 range to put a charging station in. So we'll gather some more information for that and then have it discussed next month at our committee meetings. But perhaps I don't see the desire for the county to necessarily throw one out here, but perhaps we can utilize that cost approach, various retailers or businesses around the county and say, hey, if you're interested, there's this RFP, Walmart or Piggly Wiggly or Tastemaker, whoever it is, here's an option to put some of these in for your customers, for the people coming to the county, that kind of thing. So discussion more for later on. We have all the details. Next up, I accept a motion to release calendar year 2019 committee meeting executive session meeting minutes and continue to keep calendar years 2020 and 2021 committee meeting executive session meeting minutes confidential in compliance with the Open Meetings Act.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Geeske, seconded by Mr. Van Laar. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Curry, administration.
Thank you, Chairman.
Just when you thought solar was over.
Never over. All right, moving on to Committee of the Whole Admin 10.1. I move to approve SUP-02-2022 Illinois PV Boone 1 LLC special use.
Motion by Mr. Curry. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Robertson. Izzy, staff report.
Dan, can you pull up my PowerPoint presentation, please? Okay. So we are talking about CO2 2022. This is NG Solar. So I'm going to run down quickly on this project. So this is a special use permit request. And the use is energy facility greater than 1 megawatt. So when it's greater than 1 megawatt, that's the use. It requires a special use permit. This project is two co-located projects of 2 megawatts each, located in Bonus Township, the corner of Marengo Road and Russellville Road. The property size is approximately 112 acres, and the project size is approximately 42 acres. County Board approved this project in 2018. However, a change in company and an expired extension request, which was granted in 2020, triggered this new application. So I wanted to go quickly a little bit of a history. So Zoning Board of Appeals motioned to update and add 2 conditions. Both of those conditions were added with a 4-0 vote. However, when the zoning board discussed the findings of fact, they did not approve them 0-4. And when they voted to approve the special use permit, they also did not approve favorably the project 0-4. So at this point, County Board may accept or reject the findings and recommendations from the ZBA in whole or in part. County Board may refer the matter back to ZBA for further consideration, more testimony. However, if the county board is rejecting the findings and recommendations from ZBA, the county board may grant or deny the special use permit request. So if the county board votes and motions for something other than ZBA, they are then rejecting the recommendations from ZBA, if that makes sense. Kind of a rundown. I know it was a little confusing last time. Tricia, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, but kind of wanted to do a rundown.
I don't, unless anyone has questions.
Okay.
And I guess just make sure everyone got the memorandum from my office regarding the findings and the board's ability at this point, which is kind of summarized here by Izzy.
So the applicant reviewed the comments, took a look at their site plan, and they did provide an updated site plan, which I did include, as well as some tax information. But I did want to pull up the updated site plan, which you can see here. So what they did is they took into consideration the entrance, which was really right in front of the other entrance across the street from the residence, and they've moved it down towards the pipeline building. They have also highlighted where they're going to have their vegetative buffer, and they've included distances from the properties, which also came up for your reference and for your review. Any questions? I know the applicant is also here.
Questions for staff? The applicant is here and the developer. Comments from you? Anything you'd like to add? If so, please come up. We need your name and address, please.
Sure. I'm Michael Olson. My address is 3141 West Palmer Boulevard, Chicago, Illinois. I'm joined here by my colleagues, John Gattner.
Hello there. My name is Eric Lusebring. My address is 500 West Superior, Chicago.
Well, my name is John Guntner. My address is 35 North Harvest Crest Circle, Highland, Illinois.
Thank you.
Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak. So as you can see from the updated site plan, this is a 32-acre project. I know in the previous slide it said 42 acres, but we've reduced the total size a little bit. So this is on 32 acres of land. The proposed racking system for this project will move the panels so it follows the sun throughout the day to maximize the electrical generation. So that's opposed to it just being a fixed tilt system that doesn't move and it's just kind of facing south. So in addition to that, the modules that we'll likely be using here are bifacial. So it will actually get some production from the reflection of the sunlight from the ground. So we're really trying to maximize as much electricity generation within the 32 acres as we can. Additionally, wanted to mention, I had spoken to the supervisor of assessments and gotten some property tax revenue estimates for the project if it were to be approved. And in total, across both projects, so 4 megawatts total, we'd estimate about $560,000 in tax revenue over 35 years. And that's roughly $16,000 per year on average. Obviously, that takes into account some assumptions for inflation. I think we use 2% a year and the tax rate, which could change, but this is a conservative estimate. Additionally, we've been looking through the Chamber of Commerce for the region and seeing what kind of local resources we could use for the project and have identified some preliminary companies that we're reaching out to, mostly in regards to the fencing, the gravel for the project, in addition to sanitation rentals. And lastly, I just emphasize that we have not made any significant changes to this project since 2018. And this is essentially the same project that was approved by the county board and approved by the county planning staff. So we really don't consider there a good reason for the special use permit to be denied and believe that the county board should move forward in approving it. I don't know.
You want to say?
Yeah. I'd like to say a few things as well. I heard some concerns that hopefully I can address a little bit. I myself am a licensed professional engineer. I'll be the engineer stamping this and have ultimate control over the final design drawings. And I also am from a farm family. My family owns a farm. I grew up farming. So I appreciate and understand the concerns that this community has. I'm not from Boone County, however, but I am from Illinois. In terms of the view shed, refer to view shed from neighboring properties, I understand that. I understand it can be a concern and not what people want to look at. We're willing to work with the neighbors to come up with screening plans that be satisfactory to them. And I hope that us being here in person is a gesture of confidence to the town that we're committed to this project. Another concern that was brought up was the traffic on Marengo Road. The construction phase of this project will last about 4 months. And on the handful of days that there will be deliveries, we have traffic controllers at our projects, observing traffic, making sure it's safe. Once the construction is complete, I would estimate about 1 or 2 pickup trucks per year coming on this access road. It requires almost no maintenance. So it'll be basically no traffic. And the third item in regard to agricultural uses of this property, one differentiator that our company is very proud of with other solar developers is we have, on all of our projects we've built, over 100 across the US, we use native pollinator crops. So we procure special seeds that are native to this region that would have been there prior to farming, prior to us moving in and clearing the land. And these crops have been through many studies, through many universities, showing how they restore nutrients. They create very fertile land. They essentially increase productivity over time. And I can tell you from my own family's farming experience, my grandfather was part of a state program. He did this for his property for a 10-year period. He did not farm it. And for those 10 years, we actually would go dove hunting on there. And it was a great time to spend time with my grandfather because it brought in wildlife that would not come in and have a habitat on row crops. So when the 10 years were up, when my grandfather stopped natural native planting and went back to farming, he had noticeable increases in yields. So he started doing it on other plots of land that he also owned because he didn't do this farm for 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for the developer? Thank you, gentlemen.
Mike, nice job.
Or do you have anything else that you wanted to share, or? I just want to make sure I don't want to cut you off if you had something.
There's a question.
Mr. Welty?
How high are the panels off of the ground area?
That's a great question. They're on so as Michael mentioned, they're on a tracker. They're on a tube. That tube is about 4 feet off the ground. And then the panels go up and down. So the highest that the module would get is about 8 feet off the ground. At sunrise and at sunset, they're at their biggest peaks because they're tracking the sun. And so 8 feet is the max height. And we would have a fence around the outside about 7 feet tall, which we're again willing to work with the town. If the town wants a taller fence, shorter fence, vegetation increases because of neighbors viewing, we're happy to work with the town, work with the neighbors. We're committed to do that. We've done it with other neighbors on other projects across the country.
Thank you.
I will just note, we really want to be a good neighbor. I think we will bring value to the county. I think we're very sensitive to the concerns of the neighbors and can appreciate that is not something that they would like to see. And that's a very fair objection. We will work with them on our screening. I heard, heights of 4, 5, and 7 feet. We can put in taller screening from the get-go. The screening will undoubtedly grow taller over the course of the first few years. I'm biased, but I'm personally very proud of this ground cover program that we have with over 100, nearly 100 sites across the US, including in Minnesota, Wisconsin, here in Illinois, in the Northeast, which really does restore habitat for critters and creatures that are getting squeezed. The number I used in the last call was 3% of the natural prairie land exists in Illinois today. We had conversed with one of our environmental experts. They use the number 1%. However you measure it, I think this is an ancillary benefit that's, at least to me, hard to deny. But the direct benefits in terms of, utilizing and supplying sort of demand for local resources and supplying not an insignificant amount of property taxes that will benefit the county. And also combined with the fact that we're going to have a decommissioning bond, we're going to remove all of this equipment from the site at the end of our lease term. It will be in much better condition than it is today. I believe it's hard to argue that we would not be a relatively good neighbor, not a perfect neighbor, but a relatively good neighbor. We'd like to believe that. So with that, we'll ask for your, consideration.
Mr. Curry?
Did you sit down with the neighbors and ask what they wanted and what a deal that you could broker that they would appreciate?
Yeah, and that's a very fair point. I had not spoken, nor had we spoken to the neighbors beforehand. And that's something that's a failure on our part. And so I think I'm not sure they would be receptive to that, but we would like to have that opportunity. And I think, frankly, if we could go back and revisit this from 2 or 3 months ago, we would have done that. I think that there was a bit of a miscalculation in terms of our assessment in that we had a prior approved permit. We believe that with fairly extensive conditions, we believe that, committing to those prior conditions with a prior approved permit would be sufficient. And I will also acknowledge, because I've heard this point raised a couple times, the board, the board has to do its job. It has discretion in terms of weighting things on its own merit. And that's a fair point, something that probably should be rectified.
Mr. Wiltsey?
My understanding is you've lowered the size of the project to 32 acres. What's the total size of the property area?
115.
115, and you've lowered it to 32. The whole property's 115.
Yeah, we're trying to increase the setbacks a little bit. It's not ideal to.
What's going to happen on the other 70 some odd acres?
We'll continue to farm. Yeah.
We'll continue to farm.
Mr. Walberg?
Thank you, Chairman. I commend you guys for what you've done. You've done a great job. You've come back from 2 weeks ago and addressed some of the issues, the safety concerns with the road. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you being here tonight in person. With that said, we heard from the township supervisor, the bonus township where this property is located, which is another government body within Boone County. Along with two neighbors. I just feel it doesn't seem like it's the will of the community for this particular project. And that's why I mentioned in the last discussion about in Boone County, we need to designate what we're going to have, where we're going to have these projects and the type of projects. And that's not your fault. That's a failure on our part maybe. But I hope being as a new board member, we can change that for the future. But tonight, that's where I voice my opinion.
If I could ask, on your vegetative buffer, you you've got the proposed one there that goes along with Russellville Road. Is there a vegetative buffer also along Marengo Road?
Yes,
Okay.
there's kind of small circles.
So this hash mark here.
Yeah, so it'd be essentially the same green line that's shown along there on Ringo Road.
I'd like to add that if the neighbors in the town would like additional screening, we're willing to work with it. This is what we propose, what we see as being a good possibility, but we're open to more. We want to work with the town, we want to work with the neighbors.
Further comments or questions from the board? Mr. Curry?
I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here. You shouldn't be directing that at us. You should be directing at them. And it's really hard for me to be in supportive of something that I understand the property owner also has rights as well. But I really wish you would have built that relationship with the neighbors prior, and maybe they would have been receptive to just feeling like their input mattered. Because when something happens out of their control, and that's something that they lived there for 100 years, 100+ years.
That's not he's 100 years old.
His family, though.
I know, 4 generations. I know, it's fantastic.
So I really wish that would have happened. So in future cases, I'm not against your project. I think it's great. I just wish it was utilized on different ground and with more acceptance. So
Up or down, basically.
May I?
Certainly.
Yeah. On that same note, you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. But I'd like to give a quick example of a project we have active in Massachusetts right now. We went to a similar meeting like this, got it approved by the town. We started construction, and in the time frame from getting approval from the town board, starting construction, an adjacent property owner purchased the house that could see right into like a similar view shed. We had no requirements from anyone to put any screening trees up, but we went over and introduced ourselves to the new neighbor and started a relationship there and have put screening trees up so that they don't have to see our project. So when we mobilize and start construction and maybe there's another person, another neighbor that hasn't spoken, we're committed to helping all of our neighbors and be a good neighbor.
Ms. Kieske.
I have one comment and then I do have a question because I'm still confused in some things. You know, it takes a hell of a company or a hell of a bunch of people to come in here and admit that they made a mistake. So for that, because they've admitted, that's not easy to do. I've made plenty of them, so I know how hard it is. So I must tell you that. I'm still confused because ZBA put those 2 conditions on and I'm still confused on that. So are we're just taking a look at the original conditions, those 2 things from the ZBA, which were null in my mind. Is that correct,
Yes, so staff is recommending approval of the project without those 2 added conditions from ZBA.
Okay.
And county board may reject those findings, those recommendations and just.
So if you go back to the 3 options we have, we could, okay, so the accept or reject the findings from the ZBA in whole, that's where it's at, refer it back to ZBA. Or we can just deny it.
If you're rejecting the ZBA recommendations, then yes, you can grant or deny however you wish.
Okay, thank you.
On that note, with what Ms. Kieske just clarified, just conversing with the state's attorney and some of the things that you gentlemen have said, there is that other option on the table that if somebody wanted to amend the motion, we could send it back to ZBA and ask that these gentlemen work with these gentlemen and see if there's common ground that can be found. That maybe there can be, maybe there can't be, I don't know. That's a possibility that's out there. If nobody makes a motion like that, then we vote this up or down today and go from there. Mr. Wiltsey.
Mr. Chairman, if you look at the memo from last time, there was the issue of the road access and the busyness. Now, we've had this testimony tonight that after the 4-month period, there'll be a couple of pickup trucks a year. Because, I mean, when you got a solar farm, it just kind of runs itself, you know. They talked about the drain tiles, and this is the same group that promised drain tile repair, right? Did I get that right?
Correct.
I think, other than the one comment that one individual said they didn't believe in solar and they didn't believe in the government subsidy of solar, I think all the other conditions have been looked at. I would move that we send this back to the ZBA, see if there's an opportunity to have the good faith put forward here to the gentleman who should have been talked to in the first place, and see if something can be done about this. I want to give you the macro view of this. The Keystone Pipeline's dead. Look at your electric bill. Look at your gasoline bill. Where are these electric cars going to be powered from? If we stop using anthracite coal and we go to this crazy new Green Deal stuff, we're going to wish we had had more of these farms 10, 20 years from now. Technology may be entirely different. And when these things are taken down, we'll have this thing in a better ground condition because of this project they're using for native pollinator crops. So I think this is something that we shouldn't just, I think we should give this one more chance back to the ZBA, one more chance back to the homeowners, one more chance back to the businesses, and I so move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wiltsey, seconded by Mr. Robertson, to send this back to ZBA for discussion, to allow the developer to discuss with the local landowners possibility of some common ground for screening or other changes to the project to make it more palatable. Mr. Van Lark.
Wasn't that the ZBA's job in the beginning? I mean, that's where the adjacent landowners go. That's where the finding of fact, that's where this is all hashed out. They had the chance at that time to do that, for the neighbor to talk to the applicant, to talk to the developer. Obviously, there wasn't an agreement done at that time. I don't see sending it back there. I don't see it helping. I believe it was a 4-0 vote, not in favor of the project at the time. I don't see that changing. I think it could have changed at that time. Going back to the native plants that are, put in between these solar panels to help the ground, to refurbish the ground. That's what farmers call a hayfield. We do this all the time in ag. We will put in a couple 100 acres of hay. It helps out the land. It definitely revitalizes it. It goes back into corn and beans. This is nothing new. We've been doing this thousands of years.
Ms. Kieske?
Forgive me for just asking a simple question, but why do we have to send it back to the ZBA for these folks to talk with the land or, with the people that live around? Is that a requirement?
We can either vote it up, vote it down, or send it back to ZBA. That's one of the things I was talking with the state's attorney on also is, could we postpone this vote to the next meeting to see if that's possible? We can't do that. Once something leaves the ZBA, it has a certain amount of time to be voted on.
I think that was my point.
Yeah, so we either send it back to ZBA or vote it up or down. Now, we do have a motion on the floor to send it back to ZBA to do this. Any further questions or discussion on sending it back to ZBA? Mr. Riley?
We have heard from the property owners. We have heard from the zoning board. I don't know how much more information we need to get here, folks. I think it's a waste of time. That's my opinion, but we know on sending it anywhere but down. They've had time.
Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none.
Developer has a timeline. I think you're going to expire anyway. It's in March, aren't you?
We have the same program that the other applicants were running against as well. So our intent has been to secure the permit now such that we could build the project within this year with confidence, because what happens, we'll need to be able to allocate those awards essentially to these projects. And so if we delay, it leads to uncertainty in terms of the timing of the project. So I'll maybe make a statement and then actually ask a question. The first one is that we would really like to get approval for the project today if possible. If I were to speak honestly, my read of the room is that we might be about where we were last time. So, and that was a recommendation for no, which is what it is, but it is what it is. So that's a guess. My question is that if we go back to look at the zoning, we've contemplated modifying the actual footprint of the project. So if you look at the footprint now, it's basically a square. There are other ways to modify the footprint of the project, but we need to work with the landowner. We need to do some analysis around the topography, et cetera. There's a little bit of a wetland stream. It wouldn't be part of what has been proposed to the board today. So would we be able to go and do that with the zoning, or would we need to go back through the whole permitting process?
So if you were to have come here today and had a significant change to the project, other than just reducing it a little bit and doing something, maybe change the whole footprint and
make it a rectangle,
however, then that we would have had to send back to ZBA. So if it goes back to ZBA, you would have those options to redesign the project, because it would go through a whole nother set of hearings at ZBA based on what you would be proposing at that time. And that could be with changes to the project as you see fit, changes to the project as you work out with the neighbors in trying to be a good neighbor, and do those things. You know, that would be all part of that process. If I could, Izzy, if this does go back to ZBA, what's our timeline look at? When would ZBA take this up? When would it then come back through this process? And I guess I want you gentlemen to hear that to make sure that could fit your plan also.
So the project would then go to the ZBA next month, which would be March 22nd. And then it would go back to committee in April, and then county board the third Thursday in April.
Would that be acceptable to you?
We would like to go, absent a permit approval, we would like to go down that path.
Okay.
I think, but it does lead to a little bit greater uncertainty for us. But life is uncertain, so it is what it is.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, roll call. This would be to send this back to ZBA for further considerations by the developer and the landowners.
Rodney Riley,
No.
Bill Robertson,
Yes.
Steve Schabacher,
No.
Jonathan Van Laar,
No.
Tom Walberg,
No.
Dave Wiltsey,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Gieske,
No.
Ryan Curry,
No.
Freddie De La Trinidad,
No.
Ray Larson,
No.
Motion fails. Any further comments or questions on the motion that's on the table to approve the extension for this project?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask for leave of the board to change my vote to no? Right, and I would just be candid. I will make a motion to reconsider at the next month's meeting.
That would be a no at the next vote.
Yeah, that would be for the next vote. right?
Right, because the other motion on the floor is to approve the project.
The motion on the floor now is to approve the project. That was just to send it back to ZBA. So,
Right, I'm sorry. My apologies, yes.
okay.
I guess I'd just like to just comment that you know, to follow, you either have to accept the findings or reject the findings and the reasons for that on the record. And I don't know that there really has been any comment from the board members on the particular findings. So if there's, I guess, comments or reasons as to why the board is going to vote yes or no, you should state that on the record based on the evidence that was presented at ZBA.
So,
We need to look at particularly at this.
and that's the findings of fact
Right.
that she's talking about. We don't have the findings of fact in this, or it's up here.
You're in the agenda item. Dan, I don't know if
Okay.
it's in the advisory report. Advisory report, they're gonna be all the way at the bottom,
Oh, that's this one. I'm looking
right
at
there.
one.
It's the A is the first finding. So the proposed structure or use at the particular location requested is necessary or desirable to provide a service or a facility within the interest of the public and will contribute to the general welfare of the neighborhood or community. B is the proposed structure or use will not have a substantial adverse effect on the adjacent property, the character of the neighborhood, traffic conditions, utility facilities, other matters affecting the public health, safety, and general welfare. C, the proposed structure or use will be designed, arranged, and operated so as to permit the development and use of neighboring property in accordance with the applicable district regulations. D, such other standards and criteria as are established by the ordinance for a special use set forth in section 274 and as applied to land developments that are set forth in 210 shall apply to the property for as long as the special use permit is in effect, which is where we do our recommendations and our conditions. E, the special use shall in all other respect conform to the regulations of the district in which it is located, so they must follow the regulations in A1. And F, the potential public benefits of the special use outweigh any potential adverse impacts of the special use after taking into consideration the applicant's proposal and any requirements recommended by the applicant to enumerate such impacts.
So in rejecting or accepting this project, as I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Tricia, you need to point to something. Either you're accepting these findings of fact for whatever reason, or you're rejecting these findings of fact. To give an example, ZBA rejected these findings of fact and then rejected the project. They can't accept the findings of fact and then reject the project. We as a board can't accept the findings and reject the project because that's contradictory. See what I'm saying? It's confusing and it's a pain, but welcome to Illinois. So do we need to go around the room to get?
Well, I mean, just,
Or just-
if, to support whatever vote they're going to make as to pointing to the evidence, not everyone needs to speak, but there needs to be some statement as to why the vote is going to be held one way or the other.
And it can't just be, I don't want to not have farmland taken out. I mean, that's.
Right, it cannot be, it has to be based on the evidence that was presented at the ZBA, which has been outlined by Izzy a couple different times.
Okay. Sherry?
Well, and again, as I went through the findings from the information that Trish sent us. You know, A is it necessary or desirable to provide a facility, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know, that's kind of, I mean, it depends on, you know, who's taking a look at it. But I think then you keep going, everything is fine until you get to letter E, which is modified by the county board pursuant to the recommendations of the zoning board of appeals. They turned it down. So that sends me off into trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And then, of course, the last one is potential public benefits. And public benefits sometimes especially in these days, depends who's determining that. So as much as I've not said anything worthwhile here, this is how we could get so confused is beyond me.
Mr. Van Laar?
I mean, in letter B, the impacts are minimal to the land. Yeah, and they're minimal to the land we're taking them out of ag production, which is what they are in for 30 plus years. I mean, I feel like right there you have your ag land argument just within that one sentence in letter B.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Wiltsey?
Just to respond to you, Jonathan, they're still gonna have over 70 acres under ag that's only 52 out.
I understand that, but then we voted on how many projects tonight, and if you were to add up those acres, we're right around 100 tonight. So.
But each of those has to be under the law, separately decided.
Yes, but with the understanding that every single acre that we take out of production, we're at 100 tonight. Yes, we've done that maybe 4 different times, but it's a cumulative effect that we are literally taking ag out of the picture.
So, if I may.
Izzy?
So without minimizing Mr. Van Laar's comments, the evidence that was presented by the property owners at ZBA really had things to do with things that the applicant has addressed. So if you recall, I did add a ZBA summary on there that kind of talked about, well, there's going to be traffic, there's going to be maybe lights, which we know there are no lights on the site out of the project. Bonus Township also had concerns with traffic with Ringo Road and possible traffic congestion, which we heard from the applicant is minimal and then really non-existing after the project is up and running. So if you want to consider what was discussed and the concerns of ZBA and address those, because that was the evidence that was presented at ZBA, just a comment.
This is, I think, this is a project that was approved in 2018. I know this is a different board. We've said this multiple times. So approved in 2018. It was granted an extension. This developer purchased project. Extension ran out, so now they have to resubmit on a project that was previously approved. I think it's unfortunate we didn't send it back to ZBA to let them try and find a way to work with the landowners in another way. From their standpoint, yes, perhaps they should have reached out at that time, but they purchased a project that was already previously approved by this body. So I guess they admitted they screwed up. They should have done it and they didn't. And that happens, but a project that was previously approved, I wouldn't think would have that many problems coming for this body. And in the last week or week and a half, I know that they've looked to try and find different things and different ways to make this a viable project with a minimal time and not being able to do a whole lot because they can't substantially change the project unless it gets sent back to ZBA. So their hands were a little bit tied from that standpoint. I think that they've made accommodations, moving the road, addressing some of those issues that were at ZBA that were brought up. I think it's still a viable project and I'm going to vote yes. Further comments from the board? Seeing none, can we vote now, you think? Or do we need more?
What's the motion on the floor now?
Motion on the floor is to approve project SUP special use 02-2022 ILPB Boone 1 LLC special use. Roll call, please.
Bill Robertson,
Yes.
Steve Schabacher,
No.
Jonathan Van Laar,
No.
Tom Wahlberg,
No.
David Wilkie,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Geeske,
No.
Ryan Curry,
No.
Freddie De La Trinidad,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
No.
Rodney Riley,
No.
Motion fails.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Curry.
Item 10.2, I move to approve planning case RP-03-2022 McFadden replat Candlewood.
Motion by Mr. Curry. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Curry.
10.3, I move to approve the county engineer to begin contract negotiations with Chastain and Associates LLC and bring forth a professional services agreement for Piscataw Creek Bridge Bundle Phase 1 and 2 services to the county board.
Motion by Mr. Curry. Second. Seconded by Mr. Robertson. Any discussion on this? Mr. Crone, anything you want to add? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Curry.
10.4, I move to approve the purchase of an all-wheel drive motor grader from low bidder Altifer in the amount of $336,614.
Motion by Mr. Curry, seconded by Mr. Larson. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Steve Schabacker,
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar,
Yes.
Tom Wahlberg,
Yes.
David Wiltie,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Geeske,
Yes.
Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Rodney Riley,
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mr. Curry.
Item 10.5, I move to approve resolution 22-15, resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code, resolution 22-14, resolution establishing a class 2 or prohibited truck route, and approval of an intergovernmental grant agreement between IDOT and the county of Boone.
Yeah, that's one.
Second.
That's what we're doing next.
Yeah. Motion by Mr. Curry, seconded by Ms. Geeske. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jonathan Van Laar,
Yes.
Tom Wahlberg,
Yes.
David Wiltie,
Aye.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Geeske,
Yes.
Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Rodney Riley,
Yes.
Bill Robertson,
Yes.
Steve Schabacker.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mr. Curry.
Item 10.6, I move to approve resolution 22-17, resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code, resolution 22-16, resolution establishing a class 2 or prohibited truck route, and approval of intergovernmental grant agreement between IDOT and the county of Boone.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Curry, seconded by Ms. Geeske. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Tom Wahlberg,
Yes.
David Wiltie,
Aye.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Geeske,
Yes.
Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Rodney Riley,
Yes.
Bill Robertson,
Yes.
Steve Schabacker.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mr. Curry.
Item 10.7, I move to approve resolution 22-19, resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code, resolution 22-18, resolution establishing a class 2 or prohibited truck route, and approval of intergovernmental grant agreement between IDOT and the county of Boone.
Motion by Mr. Curry,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Riley. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Dave Wiltie,
Aye.
Carl Johnson.
Yes.
Sherry Geeske,
Yes.
Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Rodney Riley,
Yes.
Bill Robertson,
Yes.
Steve Schabacker.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar,
Yes.
Tom Wahlberg.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mr. Curry.
Item 10.8, I move to approve wellness services agreement with Swedish American Better Life Wellness.
Motion by Mr. Curry,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Wahlberg. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Carl Johnson.
Yes.
Sherry Geeske.
Yes.
Brian Curry.
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Steve Shabaka.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Tom Wahlberg.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Curry, anything else?
I have nothing further, Chairman. Thank you.
Finance, Ms. Geeske.
Thank you. Item 11.1 is a motion to approve claims with the understanding that Carl Johnson abstains from voting on all claims presented by Wilkie Carls and all claims presented from Core and Maine and all claims submitted by the Boone County Highway Department. Bill Robertson abstains from voting on all claims presented by B. Robertson Lock Service.
Motion by Ms. Geeske, seconded by Mr. Van Laar. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Sherry Geeske.
Yes.
Brian Curry.
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Steve Shabaka.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Tom Wahlberg.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Carl Johnson.
Yes. Motion carries. Ms. Geeske.
Item 11.2 is a motion to approve the Public Defender's Office promotions.
Second by Ms. Geeske, seconded by Mr. Van Laar. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Brian Curry.
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Steve Shabaka.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Tom Wahlberg.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Aye.
Carl Johnson.
Yes.
Sherry Geeske.
Yes.
Motion carries. Ms. Geeske.
Item 11.3 is a motion to utilize the $10 million standard revenue loss allowance for the purpose of calculating ARPA revenue loss.
Motion by Ms. Geeske,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Robertson. Discussion.
Yeah, I need some clarification on this. So what are we doing? We're just moving this to the general fund? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, so Mr. Street, if I blow this, please hit me.
We're not spending the money tonight.
No, what we're doing is, the federal government finally came out with their rules and regulations as to how and why and what you can do with the ARPA money. And one of the final rulings was that you could take a $10 million loss exemption and take up to that amount of money and just move it to where you needed it to move to. So, rather than trying to scour all the other rules and regulations and trying to figure out what project that they think in Washington is good for us, we would like to take that money, put it where we think it's good for us to use. I know it's a shock that the federal government's letting the local government make the local decision, but that's kind of what they're doing here. Did I hit that pretty close? All right, thank you, sir.
Then down the road, we establish what.
Down the road, we can use those funds for whatever we want to. I think once we do this, I think I would like to work with staff and develop some ideas as to what we can utilize these funds for. I don't want them to be somebody's, I want a new clock in my office kind of stuff. We need to do good things with this money. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Steve Shabaka.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Tom Wahlberg.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Aye.
Carl Johnson.
Yes.
Sherry Geeske.
Yes.
Brian Curry.
Yes.
Motion carries. Ms. Geeske.
Item 11.4 is a motion to approve ordinance 22-02, property tax abatement alternate bonds series 215A.
Motion by Ms. Geeske. Seconded by Mr. Shabaka. Discussion. 2-0. Roll call, please.
15.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Steve Shabaka.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Tom Wahlberg.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Carl Johnson.
Yes.
Sherry Geeske.
Yes.
Brian Curry.
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Motion carries. Ms. Geeske.
Item 11.5 is a motion to approve resolution 22-20 for approval of final contract and closing of real estate transaction Maple Crest.
Motion by Ms. Geeske. Seconded by Mr. Riley. Mr. Wiltsey.
I'd like to thank the state's attorney for spending some time with me today on the phone, talking about some questions I had about the contract. Her answers were quite satisfactory, and she followed up with a couple of questions of her own back to our outside counsel. And I think this is fine, and I will be voting yes.
Further discussion? I'll just point out that I will be voting no. I haven't been in favor of this particular sale from the get-go, so I'm going to keep to my guns on myself.
Keep your powder dry.
Seeing nothing else, roll call, please.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Steve Shabaka.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Tom Wahlberg.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Aye.
Carl Johnson.
No.
Sherry Geeske.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ms. Kieske, anything else for the good of the order?
Nope, that's all for finance. Thank you.
Special committees, community building, we don't have anybody there yet right now. UCCI, Dan, anything that you know of? I don't recall anything. Community Action Agency, that's former mayor, and he's not here. 911, Mr. Riley.
We had a meeting this morning. They need dispatchers. Anybody, that, you know, sheriff's mentioned it before that there's a couple going out the door now, a couple more will be going out the door in the next couple of months. So a lot of applications come in, but not too many viable ones. So just that as a public service, you know, if you know of anybody, have them apply.
10-4.
That's about it. They have new chairs and they like them now.
Perfect. When you're in a chair all day, that makes a huge difference.
Makes a difference. You be it.
Yep.
We don't need to go into the chairs, Sheriff.
Land Bank, Ms. Kieske.
Oh, no report. We haven't met since last meeting.
Perfect. Any other committees? Scheduling of committees, Ms. Kieske.
The Committee of the Whole Finance will be March 10th at 6 PM right here, and I will not be here.
Okay. Mr. Curry.
Committee of the Whole Administration meeting will be Thursday, March 3rd, 6 PM, and I will be here.
Wonderful. No unfinished business, informational items, board member comments. Mr. Riley, did you have something, Mr. Riley? Oh, no, I thought you were throwing your arm up. So
Oh, no.
quick on the draw. All right. Correspondence, Dan, anything?
Nothing.
We do need an executive session for personnel
And potential litigation.
and potential litigation.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'd like
By Mr. Shabaka.
probable and imminent litigation.
Sorry?
Probable or imminent litigation
Fine to me.
Okay, that's fine. So,
under the Open Meetings Act.
okay, so motion by Mr. Wiltsey, seconded by Mr. Shabaka. Roll call.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Dave Shabaka.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Tom Wahlberg.
Yes.
David Wiltsey.
Aye.
Carl Johnson.
Yes.
Sherry Geeske.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Motion carries. We are in an executive session at 8:23 PM. Okay.